and welcome to Traditional Painting the Digital Way. This is where I use digital painting apps to teach traditional painting techniques. In this video, we're going to be working on the third part in our Saguaros series, and we're going to go ahead and add the vegetation in the front and work on the saguaro cactuses. If you want to follow along with traditional materials, check out part 1 in this series where I have a list of all the paint and the canvases and the colors that I use. We're using Infinite Painter for Android here, and I'm just working some more on the vegetation here and trying to get kind of a look of all the different things that are in this photograph. And so we're trying to start to bring the detail out with it. And so I want to kind of draw some of the twigs and the branches that are on some of these shrubs and these different kinds of vegetation in the front. And some of it is cactus and some of it is creosote bushes. Greasewood bushes is what they're called here in New Mexico, and just kind of give an idea of all the little twigs and the things that stick out there. And then I wanted to go ahead and start adding in the saguaros, and for the shadowed part of the saguaros, you want a sort of a darkish purplish gray color. And if you're following along traditionally, you can take your script brush and draw some tall, thin lines and then add the little arms on there as well, and use probably dioxazine purple mixed with some burnt sienna, maybe some ultramarine blue for the shadow color. And then for the highlighted side of it, and the sun is coming from the left side of the painting and the left side of the photograph, you want to add the highlight, sort of a greenish light green color. And again, you want it to be kind of a greasewood green like the other ones. And so here I'm using Hooker's green with yellow ochre mixed in with it if you're following along traditionally. And you just kind of want to go back over it again a little bit because I started to lose the shadowed side of the saguaros, and you definitely got to have the shadowed side to stand out from the background, because this is sort of the foreground, and so you want those to be darker and to actually show up against the mountains, because the mountains are kind of light green and yellow, light yellow ochre. You want to make sure that you darken the shadowed side of the saguaros. And also there's an old dead tree stump right next to one of the saguaros, and so I'm trying to bring that out and make it show up against the background of the mountains. And I'm using sort of the stucco brush to try to get some texture on it. I want to highlight the light side of the tree, the side that the sunshine is hitting. And so you would use white acrylic gesso with a touch of ultramarine blue and cadmium orange when you're following along with your acrylics. And so you just want kind of a light gray color, yeah, if you're doing this in Infinite Painter. And I'm trying to use the stucco brush just to give it a textured look. You kind of want to use a lot of textured brushes for this painting, because that just helps give it some look, a textured look on it. You just kind of want it to not look smooth. We want this to look like a natural painting. I like to make these paintings look as close to uh, traditional media as I possibly can. And I'm also using some of the tatami brushes. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong, but anyway, there's some that I've downloaded from the Infinite Painter forum, and so you definitely want to uh, check that out because you can find all kinds of stuff at the Infinite Painter forum, and you need to just go to the Infinite Painter website, and the forum is there. Sign up. Everybody shares their artwork, the different processes. We talk about the bugs that are in the program. Some of us are, I'm a beta tester, and so we also try to work out the bugs in the program, and it's just sort of a really nice community that we have there. So here I'm working a little bit more on the vegetation in the front, trying to work on the saguaros. I decided that maybe I had them a little bit too tall in the background, so I was trying to bring them down and make it so that there's kind of some depth there. Put some on the right side way in the background there, and then I'm darkening the ones in the front here, just trying to give this painting some more depth. You want to make sure that you bring the objects up in the foreground, make sure that they're bigger so that you can show the perspective in your painting. And so that's kind of what I'm working on there, trying to put some of the twiggy bushes in at the bottom of the canvas here. These will be in the foreground, and you want these to be darker up against the light colored grass and vegetation there. And I'm trying to get kind of a textured look for those bushes in the background. We want to use that to get a leafy type of a look for all this vegetation. And if you're following along traditionally, you can take your number 3 round and make some little crescent shaped strokes, anything that looks kind of jagged and uneven. You don't want anything to look uneven. You want this to look like leaves of all sorts there. And so I'm just trying to add that in there with the vegetation using green colors and purplish colors and yellow colors. You can use cadmium yellow light mixed with a touch of burnt sienna, or you can use yellow ochres, use Hooker's green if you're following along traditionally with all these acrylic colors. And then I'm adding some purple underneath the vegetation to give it the shadowed look. That's your shadows. You can use blues and purples and sometimes a little bit of browns for your shadows, but don't use black. It is too dark and it will make everything look flat. So you want to have purple shadows or bluish shadows because that shows the shape of the vegetation, and it shows the shape of the ground and things like that. And you don't want to use just pure black because that just kind of looks like a big blob then, and it doesn't give it a natural look. And so here I'm just trying to get more of the vegetation added and a little bit of some of the lighter colors against the saguaros, just to give it some depth. And here I'm adding a little bit more of the grass that's in front of some of this vegetation in the very front here in the foreground. And just going back and adding kind of some jagged leaves and Some of this might be needle grass, which is also really painful. It's a grass, and but it breaks off and sticks into your clothes and things, and it's not as stiff as a cactus, but they're still painful if they jam into your socks and things. So that might be some needle grass there, and I'm trying to use some of the Harmony brushes and things like that in Infinite Painter to get that look. And you can just use your script brush and kind of make some thin strokes if you're following along traditionally, and use some really thinned out mixture of paint there. And if you will notice, I've kept the orange shining through the orange background, looking through some of the vegetation to make it look like there's the sand out there. And so this is the end of part 3 of my Saguaro series. And in part 4, we're going to add the final details and just tweak it and make the overall picture come together. So if you want to see that, hit the subscribe button. Thanks everybody for watching. Thank you so much for your support. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments down below, and I will catch you later.